The film begins by introducing Tina, who is getting ready to spend the weekend at the lake with her friends. Her mother Laura shows concern about the trip, but Tina lies, saying she needs to go because of a college assignment. After saying goodbye, she borrows a car and sets off to meet her friends. First, she stops at Kathy's house to pick her up. Then the two head to Jordan's house. Jordan's father also shows concern, as he knows Tina and believes she is not a good influence. Even so, Jordan assures him that everything will be fine. Kathy knocks on the door and asks her to hurry. Then they go to pick up Stephanie, whom Kathy does not like very much because of her peculiar taste, but she decides not to question Tina. During the drive, Stephanie asks about the cabin, and Kathy explains that Tina found it in a video on YouTube. Stephanie shows hesitation and asks what would happen if someone lived there. Jordan tells her to ignore that and enjoy the trip, and the other girls agree, saying nothing will happen to them. After a few hours on the road, they reach their destination, but they do not immediately see the cabin, and Stephanie asks where it is. Kathy explains that they still need to walk a bit, and Tina assures them it is not far. The girls enter the woods, but soon encounter an obstacle, a river. Jordan asks how they will cross, and Stephanie begins to undress, which irritates Tina. Stephanie says they need to cross to reach the cabin, and that she does not want to get her only outfit wet. With few options, the others end up agreeing and begin to cross. Once on the other side, they resume their path through the forest. During the walk, Stephanie finds the remains of an animal and becomes intrigued, but decides to continue with the group. After some time, they finally find the cabin and approach cautiously. As they get closer, they notice signs that someone might live there, but Tina decides to go inside to prove that the place is abandoned. She starts shouting for someone, and Kathy becomes worried, because if someone really lives there, Tina has just revealed that they are only a group of girls. Jordan believes the place is empty, and Tina notices the door is open and decides to enter. The others follow her, and the suspicion that someone might live there increases. Stephanie tries to calm them, saying the place seems abandoned, and they begin searching the interior, but find nothing strange. Later, Kathy and Stephanie are talking when Kathy says she needs to use the bathroom. She asks where she can go, and Stephanie suggests she look outside. Kathy goes out to find a spot and starts walking in the dark, bumping into things along the way. At one point, she finds a shed and decides to use it as a bathroom, not realizing someone begins watching her. As she goes deeper inside, she sees a doll and decides to get closer to take a look. When she gets nearer, she feels a chill upon noticing that sinister doll with button eyes. Meanwhile, Stephanie, worried, goes out to look for her and starts calling her from outside. She soon realizes she is being watched by someone, who quickly hides. She smiles, thinking Kathy decided to relieve herself in the woods, and approaches the tree. Stephanie starts calling for Kathy, and distracted, does not notice a trembling man beside her. He quickly disappears and makes a noise, catching her attention, and she thinks it is Kathy. Whistling echoes through the woods, and Stephanie begins searching, still believing it is a joke. As she walks, she slips, and when she tries to get up, something grabs her from beneath the ground. This time she hears the whistling closer, and becomes desperate to get out, but something pulls her again. She lifts her hands from the ground and notices blood on them. Suddenly more blood starts spraying from the earth and hits her face. At that moment, Kathy returns, and suddenly the door closes by itself, frightening her. The noise wakes the other girls, and Jordan goes to check, asking if something fell on the floor. However, Kathy says it was the door that closed on its own, and Tina also decides to check. From the second floor, she notices bloody footprints inside the cabin and asks what Kathy did. Kathy reveals she went outside to use the bathroom, and worried, Jordan asks where Stephanie is. Kathy says she does not know, and Jordan starts investigating the footprints, but Tina asks her not to touch it. Jordan deduces they might be Stephanie's and suggests maybe she is on her period. Suddenly, they hear Stephanie's voice coming from one of the bedrooms, saying it hurts and she cannot take it anymore. Jordan asks what hurts, but Stephanie keeps screaming that she cannot take it anymore and begging for it to stop. The girls approach the bedroom and ask what is happening, but she keeps screaming. Worried, Jordan decides to enter the room and asks Stephanie to calm down. Kathy and Tina follow her, but when they turn on the lights, they do not find Stephanie. They wonder where she is, and Jordan slowly opens the curtains, startling herself, while the others laugh. As they have fun, something runs past growling, putting them on alert. Again, Stephanie's voice, along with a man's voice, begins echoing from another room. Frightened, the girls decide to check, and upon entering the room, think it might be a prank. There is a recorder on the table playing Stephanie's voice, and a man's voice asking for blood. The recording changes to another man, who claims that all evil is in the blood. He also comments that cabin found a way to release this evil. Finally, he says he found things there that do not want to remain dead. After the recording stops, the cabin lights go out, leaving the girls scared. Tina tries to calm them, saying it was just a power outage, but Kathy demands an explanation for the blood. Tina suggests maybe she brought strawberries, which irritates Kathy, who quickly snaps back at her. Jordan says Stephanie may have turned off the power and heads to the living room. The others follow and notice the television is on. Kathy asks if any of them turned on the TV, but they all say no. A macabre recording begins playing on the screen, making the girls uneasy. Jordan watches the footage closely and seems hypnotized by it. On the other hand, Tina does not like the words spoken in the recording and tries to leave, but she is knocked to the floor by someone she thinks is Kathy. When she checks, she realizes it is Jordan and, worried, tries to wake her. However, her friend does not respond, and Tina notices she is trembling. She reaches out to touch her, and as she does, the television turns off, leaving everything in complete darkness. Tina finds the situation strange, thinks it might be a joke by her friends, and asks them to turn on the lights. Suddenly, the television turns on again, and when she looks to check, she sees a woman in white in front of the TV. The woman begins spitting blood and lunges at Tina, and the two disappear. Meanwhile, Jordan wakes up from her faint and calls for her friends. She sees Kathy standing in front of the television and starts calling her, but she does not respond. Kathy begins acting strangely, and Jordan tries to help her, but the TV turns off again. When it turns on once more, Jordan sees a robust and bloodied man in front of her. Frightened, she quickly sneaks to a corner to hide, while the creature moves away. The man growls like a creature, and Jordan controls her breathing to avoid being discovered. Then she sneaks behind the couch and watches that thing. Jordan tries to leave her hiding spot, but the creature reappears, forcing her to hide again. When she is about to be located, the monster turns its attention to a noise coming from outside. We discover it is Kathy, who tries to escape, but when she enters the shed, she ends up slipping. She falls with her hands onto a cutting disc, which gets stuck between her fingers. Terrible pain takes over her hand, but even so, she manages to remove the object without making noise. Blood begins to flow, and in panic she moves backward. Suddenly, the shed doors close, increasing her despair. As she tries to open them, she hears a noise behind her, slowly turns and faces a terrible creature. Terrified, she starts banging on the door and begging for help, when Stephanie's voice begins echoing through the place. In tears, Kathy says that if this is a joke, it can stop now, because she is terrified. The creature pays her no attention, and furious, tells Kathy to find her in the dark. In shock, Kathy refuses to do so. This time, a child's voice insists she find her. Terrified, she eventually agrees, and the creature demands that she first close her eyes. Kathy obeys and reaches out her hand toward the creature, but ends up opening her eyes, which enrages it. The entity orders her not to open her eyes, and frightened Kathy backs away, managing to find a tool to protect herself. Furious, the creature begins insulting her as a cheater and accuses her of not honoring the agreement. Outside, the supposed Stephanie drags Tina by the hair through the forest. The creature suddenly stops, jumps on Tina, and begins staring at her in a frightening way. Then it pours a liquid over her, and she tries to react but cannot. Stephanie soon collapses to the side, and Tina takes the chance to move away, but first grabs a branch to protect herself. She returns near the cabin and is startled when Jordan comes out from inside. The two confirm they are really themselves, and Tina suggests they go in, but Jordan says it is better not to. However, they notice they are being watched and, terrified, quickly go inside. Inside, they see the recorder again, which soon begins playing the man's voice from before. He explains that that place tries to accept them as they are, and seeks to make them think the way it wants. He says it is not simply a malicious presence. The entity does not want to consume the person, but to be the person and become part of them. He reports that he realized the creature seems to have childish behavior, as it always tries to become friends with the victims. However, he comments that he does not know if this happens before or after killing the victims. The playback stops, and the television turns on again, but this time it does not show anything, only a bright glare. Jordan says there must be a way to defeat this thing, and terrified Tina warns that it is coming. The two decide to go somewhere else and do not notice the creature playing behind them. They head to another room, and a ball is thrown in their direction. Then another TV turns on. While they watch the horrifying scene, they do not notice the entity rising behind them. They keep watching the various macabre scenes while the creature gets closer and closer. Suddenly, it knocks them both to the ground, and they remain paralyzed. The spirit takes the form of Kathy and asks Jordan to come play with them, frightening her. The entity begins to assume the personalities of Jordan's friends, leaving her terrified. Then it summons the terrible creature to torment her. Jordan quickly sneaks to another place while the monster breaks things looking for her. As she sneaks, she passes in front of a TV and is quickly hypnotized. Jordan ends up fainting again, while the spirits watch her and call her to play. They propose a game of hide and seek. She tries to run and they will chase her, but if they find her, she will be killed. Later, Jordan is awakened by Tina, who asks if she is okay. Jordan says they need to find something, but does not explain exactly what it is. Even intrigued, Tina agrees to help her search. The two search the house, and Tina again asks what they are looking for. However, Jordan cannot explain, only asks her to keep searching. Tina looks through a hole in the door and notices another TV on in a room. They decide to check the place, and Tina searches the room. Jordan stands waiting and suddenly hears the entity's voice calling her a cheater. Tired of it, she enters the room, quickly grabs a branch and strikes the television, breaking it. When she breaks the TV, Jordan is thrown backward and Tina runs to help her. When the smoke dissipates, they notice a man standing in the corner who asks if they were the ones who broke the television. Jordan denies it, but he says the evil was trapped in it and now has been released. They have no time to react because the entity reappears. Frightened, they run toward the man and ask who he is. He introduces himself as Remington and says he was responsible for trapping the creature inside the TV. Tina says that makes no sense, and Remington explains that the TV box has some connection to the creature. However, he admits he does not have answers for everything and barely knows how to fight it. Jordan tries to reassure him, saying the important thing is that he is not one of them. They try to leave the cabin, but the creature blocks the exit and begins to surround them. The entity says it just wants to play with them. Remington tells the girls to stay behind him and pulls out a gun. Suddenly, the entity throws him away, and he faints. Hours later, only Tina and the man remain, as Jordan ends up being killed by the entity. While Remington remains unconscious, the creature puts on a horror show for Tina, using the bodies of her friends. Then the entity, assuming Jordan's body, approaches her and asks if she wants to play. Frightened, Tina backs away, and the creature pulls out a knife and begins cutting its own tongue. Soon after, it hands the knife to Tina and demands she do the same. Tina positions the knife, and when she is about to cut her own tongue, Remington appears, grabs the knife from her hand and uses it to strike the creature. It returns to its normal form and repels Remington away, and the knife ends up stuck in his hand. Without hesitation, he removes the knife, but faints again. The pigman reappears and begins dragging him through the house, and Remington wakes up at that moment. He tries to use the gun to kill the creature, but it throws him away, making him drop it. Again, the pigman attacks Remington and throws him near the gun. He manages to grab it, but cannot shoot because he is thrown again. Tina is hiding in the basement when the entities call her to play. Irritated, she asks what they want from her, but they do not respond and appear in various different forms. Remington, on the other hand, wakes from his faint and hears screams, being covered by blood leaking from the ceiling. Back to Tina, she is surrounded by the entities, who order her not to open her eyes. But she cannot control herself in fear and runs to hide elsewhere while the creature searches for her. The entity sneaks along the floor toward her and soon gets very close to Tina. She keeps her mouth shut to avoid being found, but the creature manages to locate her, ending up face to face with her. Meanwhile, Remington fights the pigman, but the creature proves superior and throws him to the ground. However, Remington does not give up and manages to find an axe. The two begin an axe fight, but this time Remington manages to overpower and kill the creature. However, Remington ends up severely wounded and sits down to rest for a while. The entity, now possessing Tina's body, reappears to confront him. She grabs the axe and explains she does not want to hurt him, she just wants him to join them. Remington refuses and says he only came to enjoy his vacation, but they ruined everything and tries to attack her. However, the entity proves faster, reappears elsewhere, and bathes in blood. It appears behind him, throws him to the ground, and climbs on top. It removes a knife from its own throat and begins playing with Remington before stabbing him several times. When he is about to be killed, he manages to grab the knife and pins it against the wall. Then Remington begins a ritual to imprison her again, but during the process, the entity makes him have several visions of terrible things, thus ending the narrative.